So how would you sum up the show in 20 seconds or less?
It starts in Oxford, and it's set now, and so it's humans, but we suddenly quickly realise that there are also creatures living in the world, which are demons, witches, and vampires, and the story centres pretty much around a witch called Diana Bishop, and she suddenly meets a vampire called Matthew Clairmont.
The relationships and the chemistry between Matthew and Diana are so important to this show, and how did you build that chemistry?
Well, I suppose that there's two parts to that. One is it's inbuilt in the novel, which is great, but then you have to find two actors that might be able to do it. And you have that weird thing where I was sent off. I got given the job, which was great. I was very excited, and then I got sent on a plane out to Los Angeles. Then it's kind of like speed dating. From what I've been with the same girl for 15 years, but from what I hear, speed dating's like. And I sat in a room, and there was one person that we really wanted to have the job, and that was Teresa. Particularly as I saw a film that she'd done with Andrew Garfield on the way out on the plane. I thought, who is this girl? She's absolutely amazing. I hadn't seen any of her work before. I mean, she started taking the piss out of me, actually, if I'm honest, because I happened to be doing a golf swing in the mirror just as she entered. She's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, busted." So we just got on really well straight away. And I always think, well, isn't it just about learning your lines? But apparently chemistry is something slightly untouchable, and I hear we have it. So, yeah, here's hoping that people enjoy the show.
How did you bond when the cameras weren't rolling?
We swear a lot, English and Australian, so, I mean, I suppose there was that too. But she's had children pretty recently, and I've got 3, and so the minute that they get to it, so it's just like, oh, here's mine, these are my kids. And I was like, oh, these are mine. And she was still breastfeeding and doing all of that stuff at the same time, so we were just having a bit of a giggle about, how when you do that, things can change in size. So yeah, no, we got on very well, and we're still very good friends after 6 months of filming together, so that's good.
What's your favourite thing about working with Teresa?
She's so positive. I think she's like an earth mother as far as, and she's like, I mean, her husband ended up leaving to go off and do a job which he wasn't meant to be doing, but she said, of course you should go and do that. And so she was working these 14-hour days, really hard, whilst she had a nanny during the day, but obviously her little ones had to come in and be breastfed at many different times, and she was learning all the lines and doing a main part. But the minute her day finished, she had to go home and be mum. Whereas obviously my kids were back at home with their mother, and so she was had so much energy. And I think English is slightly more cynical, perhaps, or maybe it's just me. And so she would keep me buoyant and happy, and for most of the time. And she's just a brilliant actress. So all of those things together make it fun to go to work, really.
It sounds like the cast really got on really well. What's your funniest memory from filming?
I can't think of anything to mind. Every day was just very. There were certain scenes that Teresa, because some of this novel is obviously very much sort of fantasy based, and some of it I found quite amusing. Just having to there was a day when I was filming something about, she had to tell me what she saw in the book of life when she took it out, when Ashmole 782, and she goes, and there's this amazing drawing of an alchemical child, which was a baby which was upside down. And I was like, and I just started laughing, and I found it. I actually couldn't laugh. I couldn't look at her throughout that scene because it's just such a bizarre thing to be talking about and be excited about. A baby upside down. Ooh.
How were you with all the magic jargon?
I mean, luckily for me, I didn't have incantations, because that's the witches, so I was pretty pleased about that, because that does seem like mumbo jumbo, some of it. But then you actually have to deal with the actual I thought you were going to go with the technical difficulties of actually portraying the magic on screen. So there's various things that are connected to like almost invisible wire, which have to be tugged at certain times to make it look like magic exists. They've done really well, actually, because that's the thing, isn't it? When you have a fantasy novel, it's very easy to write it. Like, it's a castle and it has 6 towers and it's huge and everything's vast, and then you're like, I know, but we've only got a budget that's like, So it's quite it was a very difficult thing to put. To make flesh, if you like, and I think we've done a really good job.
The books have such passionate fans. I mean, have you had any memorable fan experiences yet?
There were a bunch actually who happened to be in and around when we were filming in Oxford, because you get a lot of visitors from abroad and from America, particularly up there, if they aren't actually already enrolled on campus. And so we would often get to set, and there'd be people that would be super passionate, and we'd only just started filming, really. So we sort of go out and speak to the fans when they seem like a really nice bunch, because sometimes you never know what kind of fans you're going to get. And it's not necessarily, it can be a little bit daunting if you get like big groups, people going and being like, so how's it going? And it felt like it was a bit too early to talk about. Like, well, I think it's going okay. But they seem like a pretty erudite, intelligent bunch of people. So we'll see if we can please them with the adaptation.
Looking back at your past back catalogue of movies, I mean, we love Watchmen. I'd love to know if you'd ever be up for doing a sequel.
No, I don't think so. I just think that they're doing a television series of it now. I think that will do it better than. Again, it's that thing of doing a novel versus a film, and I always think that it should have been an actor who's a little bit older. So maybe now I am the right age to play it. So maybe I should.
Okay, so now I have some fan questions that have been tweeted in. The first one is, what surprises you most about your character?
Well, I suppose the fact that he's so reserved in general, and he has such a checkered past, and but the fact that he has problems controlling himself. He does suffer from this thing called bloodlust, which we learn about later. But might as well throw it in now, because no one really understands what that means, probably. But the fact that he falls for her so quickly, I think, considering his main thing is to try and understand why creatures are losing all their powers, and suddenly this witch comes along, and witches and vampires famously don't get along, and that there's this sense of inevitability, or that for a strong man he seems quite weak in some ways.
What's the major difference between creating a TV show versus making a movie?
Well, this is a TV show, obviously. Time generally, and also the fact that there's a nature of, but due to it being adaptation, things change continually throughout. Oftentimes when you do a movie, it's fairly set. People have been working on it. It's 2 hours. The structure doesn't change that much. Maybe a tweak here or there. Whereas this was a living, breathing thing. And Jane Tranter, who's our producer, sort of prides herself on that she does not stop and will re-edit and tweak and change lines and blah 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 right up until literally the day it goes out. So I wouldn't be surprised if yesterday she was tinkering with something, because therein lies a sort of bigger difference. But it's quite nice also when you're doing a book. It's nice not to have to do it in 2 hours. It's nice to have it unfold like the chapters of the book itself, so you have more time on screen. So in some ways you can do things much more subtly. Have
you read the books? And if so, will watching the show be different if you know how the books end?
It's funny, Jane didn't want us to read the book to start off with, and then we just felt a bit naked about it. We're like, well, I need to know the mythology and everything that's going on. So we sort of said, look, please. And she was like, okay. So I read 1, and I haven't read 2 or 3 yet, because I don't want to ruin the surprise. I know that I'm going to have to read 2 very soon, because we start it again in March.
What's your favourite thing about your character, and do you have a favourite scene?
I think the stag hunting was quite fun. So having the possibility of incredible speed and agility, as opposed to the actual of doing it, which is up on a mountain in the Brecon Beacons, and my wonderful director at that point was saying, any chance that you could possibly run a bit quicker, look a bit more agile? And you're like, well, I'm running up a 1 in 2 gradient and there's potholes everywhere, but I'll give it a go. So yeah, we got challenged. But yeah, it's nice to have that he doesn't fly, but he has some pretty good, physical strength.
How did you prepare for your role?
I read the book and we chatted out, but you suppose in some ways you can't really prepare until you meet the other actors that you're going to spend most of your time with. So spending really good amounts of time with Teresa and also working with Jane Tranter, who there's no stone unturned. She's a real inspiration as a producer. So, you do your homework and you turn up and you do your best. It's like going to church. Once a week, do your best.
If you could ask your character one question, what would you want to know?
How do you take the left side of a golf course out of your swing?